Hi y'all, I'm Allison. Today we're going to finish Weyward. Well, I am. You should have already finished it before you watch this video. Otherwise, I'm going to ruin the ending for you. Because I, of course, am going to be reading through on camera, speculating and guessing and probably moaning and groaning as I go. Because, unfortunately, this book isn't really floating my boat. But hopefully it'll change at the very end. Maybe it'll pull out a Hail Mary and I'll end up going, okay, now I get it. Now, obviously, if you have stumbled on this by chance, you're going to want to go back to the very beginning. And don't worry, it's never too late to join in. So I will put a link up here for you so you can go to part 1 and experience the book with us. It's never too late to join in, and I will be more than happy to come back and discuss it with you as you progress through. Okay, first, before I go get comfy and start reading again, let's kind of take let's kind of just take the temperature of the room and see how everybody is doing. It seems like this last section has kind of won a couple of people over. Some of y'all are starting to enjoy the book a little bit more. You've become accustomed to the chime jumping, and it's no longer disrupting your enjoyment of the book. I, on the other hand, am still struggling with it. We'll see how I do with it today. I did count while I was, let me look and see who I was talking to. Okay, it was Whitney with Tabara's Den. We were discussing it because she is listening to the audiobook and Fallon O'Connor is doing the audiobook as well. And they are having a completely different experience with this book. Apparently the narrators are really good. There's a different narrator for each timeline. And I guess these ladies are just incredible because those two are really enjoying the book. They don't find it disruptive bouncing back and forth. So maybe that's the key to this, the audiobook. Anyway, what I was mentioning to Whitney that she wasn't even aware of, I went back and counted. During our last stop, we read 66 pages during stop 3. We jumped 10 times between stories, which is probably why it's just, as y'all know, it keeps pulling me out of it. So, and maybe in a future reread, depending on how the ending goes, I might go back and read all of Altha's storyline and then read Violet's and then Kate's. Maybe if I take them each as individual stories that lead up to the next one, I might enjoy it better. I don't know. We will see. It will depend on the ending, of course, whether I'm going to keep this book or get rid of it. Now, Wanda, over at Wanda's Beck's Life, she brought up something that I think kind of hit the nail on the head for me personally. This was a comment she made in our last stop, but she's saying that the book is all vibes and no plot. And I think that's where a lot of my issue is as well. So the plot is very, very slow going. It's all about the vibes. So maybe, because if you've been around my channel much, you know that lyrical writing is, that's not necessarily my cup of tea. It doesn't mean that I haven't enjoyed some. It's just I'm very picky when it comes to those books. So that's a me issue. That's not on the author. Yeah, and another thing that it seems that Violet's stock is slowly rising as we move through, and I think because she's getting a plot line. You know, there's a lot happening in Violet's timeline. And Kate just keeps sinking and sinking. So I also agree with Carol Leathers. She's getting really serious martyr vibes from the characters, as well as the woe is me. And, you know, I'm with you. I see it too. And she says that that's what's making it hard for her to connect with the characters and, you know, muster up the amount of compassion that she would probably normally have for someone in their situations. Oh, one last thing, and then I'm going to get into it. Otherwise, I'm just going to work myself up into it mood before reading. And I don't want to pick up my book with that mood. So I was thinking about it with Kate. You know, because she was shocked, or not shocked, but she was just like, gee, maybe I should do something. I don't have much money left, and should I get a job? And it's been months you know, since she left her husband, Simon. And I completely left out the fact that she is pregnant. Okay, when you are pregnant, you are, of course, somebody else is relying on you, 100%. So the fact that she let her bank account get down to like 200 pounds, dollars, conversion rate doesn't matter, before going, you know what, gee, maybe I should get a job, makes it all the more infuriating, because if she can't even realize that she's going to need to be able to support herself financially, how in the world is she going to take care of an infant? I don't like Kate. And I'm not the only one. So there's just nothing relatable in her character. All right. Despite my not wanting to get myself worked up and irritated before I started reading this book, I think I've done that anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go have some lunch. That way I won't be hangry, because my family has pointed out I get very hangry. I get irritated when I'm hungry. So I want to go into this as open-minded as I can, because hopefully I am still optimistic. I'm hoping the end will sway my opinion of the book, and I'll end up going, okay, you know what? This was worth it after all. So I am not hating the book by any means as much as I'm bashing on it. I'm just frustrated with it. So I'm going to go eat some lunch. Then I will be back when we have settled into the living room, and we are going to finish this puppy and find out how everything plays out. All right, I'll be back very soon. All right, I thought we would go on the big couch today because I thought I would get more room. But no, Lily's right up against me, so I should have stuck with the love seat. But anyway, we're going to read from here today. And I'm going to enjoy this book. I don't care about the time jumps. It's not going to faze me at all. It's going to be a wonderful, and the ending is going to be spectacular. So, channeling all of the good. Okay, so it's going to be awesome. I'm going to love it. I will not be annoyed. My mac and cheese was really good. And Lily is sitting on my foot. Might as well cover her up. Keep her warm too. Okay, and let's find out how this book ends. I am curious. I do want to know. So we're in Violet's timeline, and she had recently found the letters from her dad to her grandmother. So she's learning a little bit more about her family's past and about her mother. So, okay, I think this will be a good place to start, because I am intrigued by these letters. So this will hopefully set everything off on the right tone, and I will enjoy the end of the book. All right, I am going in. I think they were talking about what happened to Lizzie. They were, I guess, Violet's mom's fate was being explained in these letters. At least it's an explanation for Violet. Okay, we are immediately starting with more ignorance and, unfortunately, historical, despicable acts that were committed against women. So that's where hysterectomy comes from. They actually thought that a woman's sexual reproductive system led to hysteria. So hysterectomy. Get rid of the womb, the uterus, and women would no longer become irrational, ignorant. And of course, it didn't do anything. If anything, it probably threw their hormones all out of balance and made it even worse for them. I am curious to know if she really was on a ledge holding Violet's brother. What was his name? Was it Daniel? I mean, did Elizabeth really put her son in danger, or I don't know. So her mother appeared the next day. I'm assuming as soon as she got the letter, she headed out, although maybe she didn't receive the letter because, oh, this is the 40s. So yeah, she probably got the letter and hightailed it right over there. And he actually refused to admit her to the house. He's not even pretending. Wow. I can't imagine if it was, I received a letter like that about my daughter, and then my son-in-law refused to admit me into the house because he was busy with urgent paperwork. I would have busted through a window or something. Of course, I can easily say that without living within the reality of that time, but oh, I would have been really tempted to. Wow, and he even goes so far as to tell her to stop writing. The surgery's going to happen. And, you know, I am forgetting, he is nobility. He's a Viscount. So, and Elizabeth's family, you know, wasn't part of the peerage. They were, I think they were actually poor. I don't think they were middle class. I think they were poor. So she would have had no pull or say. She wouldn't have been able to do anything. They just would have strong-armed her and gotten away with it. Yeah, so 2 weeks later, the next time the poor mother hears anything, is to be told that her daughter is dead. Elizabeth died. Yeah, a weakened heart was the cause of her death from the strain of her recent delusions. How about an unwarranted surgery? That's what killed her. Wow. I can't even imagine the level of rage I would have had. Especially knowing I couldn't do anything about it. So now she was upset to hear about her daughter. It gave into her grief at some level at the funeral. So now he cuts off her relationship with her grandchildren. Oh, but he's so gracious. He's going to allow the grandmother to pass on a necklace to Violet. So many things. And again, I'm sure scenarios like this did play out. This was in 1920s. Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine. You know, my outrage is on behalf of Eleanor, the mother. I can't imagine how I would feel if I stumbled across these letters and found out this is how my father treated my mom and my grandmother. For one, my father was incredible. So, yeah. Yeah, I bet Violet jumped right to it. I didn't even think of that aspect. You know, Rupert used Elizabeth to kill his parents and his older brother so he could inherit the title and Orton Hall. And by getting rid of his wife, who's the one who supposedly actually made the accident happen, no one knows of it. So his cover-up is complete. Okay, so she found a book, Altha's book, and of course we're going to time jump. My heart goes out to Violet. I think she's definitely getting the worst of it at this point. I'm sure there will be more to come because we still have a lot of book left, but that poor child, and she is just a child. I think she was, what, 15? Okay. I don't like Kate. So she hasn't told her mom that she loves her since she was a teenager because she couldn't bear the weight of it, this love she didn't deserve. Oh, good God. Sorry. You know, maybe her mom was hurting too, and they could have healed together. Just saying. Uh-oh, she just purchased the... Yeah, no. Kate's got trouble coming. She just bought the stroller online. He's in her... Oh, she's got a new debit card number and email address. I'm betting, though, that Simon's going to track her through that and is going to see what the purchase is, and he's going to show up. That's my call. Hopefully I'm wrong, because then I'll just get mad again. Yep, she used her old email address, the one linked to her iPhone. He's going to see it. Called it. Of course he's going to see it. He's probably got that email tagged. Okay, I bet I've still got a page and a half before I reach the end of this chapter. I bet before the end of this, she's going to come home from visiting Frederick, and she's going to see Simon's car in the driveway, and then we're going to jump. That's my prediction. Oh, okay, I was wrong. Instead, she wrecked her car, and now she's got to walk through the snow. So, but I knew it would be something bad. I'm terrible. I'm sorry, y'all. I hope I'm not, you know, I hope you're not hating on me for hating on the book. And it may sound like I'm hating it, but I just, yeah, no, I don't like it. I was going to say I don't hate it. I don't. The constant, everything bad. Trying to give Lily a pillow. It just gets, that's what it is. It's become predictable that, you know, we're going to time jump, but not until something terrible or some other cliffhanger is presented. Okay, so back to Altha, which I forgot to mention in the beginning. Everybody's pretty upset with Grace, which, you know, Altha can't even have a good friend. Grace is using her, even though she hates her because of guilt by association, as far as when Grace's own mother passed away. So it's just, none of our main characters have anybody good in their life. You know, I guess Kate does have her mother, if she would have allowed her in and to be a part of her life, but it doesn't seem like anybody has anybody. Oh, and that was the other thing, the crows. I can't remember who said it, but they pointed out that when Grace's husband dies, right before the crows took off, Grace had dropped a pan, making a big noise. So could that dropped pan have been what startled the crows, which startled the cows, which caused the stampede? That, you know, I would have to go back and see if they were, you know, if the crows within earshot of hearing the pan and all the way down the line. But that connection was brought to attention. I think that might have been, I don't know if that was Carol or Janae from Lives a Thousand Lives. I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, and I'm really curious to find out. I hope we're going to find out what the significance of the crows are. You know, are they ominous? Are they good? Are they on their side? Okay. Sorry, I'm also, all of a sudden everybody's comments and our conversations that we've been having about the book popped into my head, and now I'm trying to recall that instead of reading. I am just all over the place today. Back here. Okay. Altha, that's right. Oh, I wonder, you know, I assumed that Grace is wanting to terminate her pregnancy because her husband is abusive and she's trying to save her child from that. I wonder if Grace had an affair and she doesn't want her husband to find out. Okay, so she didn't have an affair. And again, the men are even worse than you can imagine. She delivered 2 stillborns. John was mad at her and didn't want anybody to know she had a poison wound. The men are like reaching caricature level of evil. So it looks like Altha comes to the conclusion that maybe Grace would be better off if John was no longer among the living. Oh, so yeah, I guess Violet's father is afraid. Maybe he's afraid that if Violet learned about her mom and everything, that she would kill him for what he did to her mother. Okay, so Viola's gonna make the same potion with the plants. You know, I find it kind of hard to believe that she would immediately understand, you know, that bringing on her period would end her pregnancy, because she's so unschooled and everything. She didn't even know, you know, the term sperm. So I don't know. Okay, so after being led out of the woods by a crow, she magically forgives herself for her father's death all those years ago, and she realizes she was never a monster after all. Insert big eye roll. I'm sorry. Simon found her. Okay, so it took a little bit longer than I thought, but he knew he would. Altha just had her conversation with Grace as they're walking towards the farm, and Grace is saying that, you know, if anything were to happen to John, everyone would know that Altha and probably Grace was behind it, because they would recognize the poison, and Altha would be the obvious suspect, considering her family's history with healing and whatnot. So Grace doesn't want to have anything to do with any plot against John. And I'm going to go take a little break, because I'm not vibing with the every woman is a victim, every man is evil aspect of this book. If there were some good relationships in it, some healthy relationships, some women who were actually thriving or doing well, then the plight of these three, I think, would have more impact on me. But when it's just one bad thing after another, you kind of come desensitized to it, as awful as that sounds. So like I said, now it's just kind of like waiting. It's like, okay, what terrible thing's going to happen to him next? So I'm going to go refill my Diet Coke, give myself a little breather, see if I can get back to a neutral aspect to finish the book. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, and by the way, I'm sorry with if the lighting is going from dark to light and everything. There's some setting on my phone, and I don't know how to make it stop. Apparently, whenever I look away, the light dims. So I'm trying to keep facing the camera to prevent that from happening. One of these days, I will get brave enough and use my husband's camera to actually start filming my videos. I just haven't taken the time to learn how to do it yet. Okay, so I'm going to dive back in. And I realized something while I was on my little break. For one, I looked it up. It was Stacy L. who pointed out that Grace had dropped a pan before the crows scared the cows. So she was wondering if that was really what caused that stampede to happen. And it might be. And Fallon mentioned that she noticed with Grace's introduction into the story and how she went to Altha asking for help with her pregnancy and everything, despite her obvious hatred of Altha, that it's not only the men who are treating these women badly or manipulating them, but, you know, other women as well, meaning Grace. So yeah, and I think, honestly, that's what it boils down to for me. I think that's why I'm having such a hard time with this book. I don't typically read books where all it does is focus on the negative side of humanity. I don't like that. I would rather focus on the good in life. And, you know, I don't like dwelling on all of this negativity. It gets to me. Thankfully this time it's just raising my ire. You know, it's irritating me, which is much better than being depressed by it. But yeah, you'll notice most of my books, I tend to go for the lighter side of things. Because you know what? There's enough conflict and strife in the news. Yeah. So, and that doesn't mean I don't enjoy a hard-hitting book from time to time. Or even, you know, I can get on a stretch where I read a lot of them. But I like it to be tempered with something. This one just doesn't have anything to offset it. It's just constant bad, bad, bad. Okay, I'm going back in. I'm going to finish this puppy. Okay, I had to take my son to work. I am home, and Lily and Finley are here as well. So we will see how this goes. Okay. Oh, no. It's Finley's favorite bookmark. I don't need that. Okay, back into the book. You know, one thing that I've failed to mention, the whole way through the book, there are references to what Violet goes on to do with her life. You know, apparently she travels a lot and everything. And I have failed to mention that. In fact, no one's brought that up. I think because, you know, we were so busy waiting for the shoe to fall, finding out all the bad things that were going to happen, that it all just kind of skipped our radar completely. So we know Violet is going to have a full and good life eventually once she gets through all of this at the moment, I would assume. Are you cold, Lily? She's climbing on me like this. It typically means she's cold. Or she just wants to be by me. Yep, she's going to use the same concoction to end her own pregnancy. I don't know how I feel about her describing ending her pregnancy as if it was magic, because she marveled that such a bright color could come from her own body, referring to the blood. It was like magic, she thought. That sets really wrong with me. But moving along. Okay, so Simon is on his way, and Kate's trying to figure out what she can do, and Emily's too far away. It'll be an hour drive, and she doesn't have a car thanks to the wreck that she had, obviously. You know, curtains and locks aren't going to stop him. He'll just break the window or the door or whatnot. So instead, she'll hide in the attic. It's a tiny cottage. Okay, yeah, that's going to be... I just find Kate just annoying. When she realized the email could have been seen, she should have done something then. In fact, why didn't she move to Canada? Leave the country. Then there's no way he would find her. I mean, I guess she felt secure where she was, but I have little patience for Kate. Okay, so let me get this right. She's hiding in the attic, but she used the ladder to go through the trap door. So the ladder is going to be there. I doubt she's got the strength to lift it through. I'll keep reading. So the ladder's right underneath the trap door. Duh, now she's trapped herself in the attic. Might as well be wearing a white shirt running in the rain in a horror movie. Oh, now it occurs to her, the ladder. So she can lower her upper body through the trapdoor when she just had trouble getting in there. And now, very pregnant, she's doing this. I assume she's laying on her stomach. Ridiculous. Okay, she got the ladder up before he came in. And of course, we switched to Violet now. Okay, so now Kate is reading Altha's book too. She's trapped up in the attic with Simon down below. There are enough men in the world, her mother used to say. So Altha's mother made a promise to not use her gift, you know, her connection with animals, because it would be dangerous for her to do so. You know, she would be branded a witch, basically. She said perhaps there would be a day when women could walk the earth shining bright with power and yet live. But until then, she has to keep her gifts hidden. long enough to survive, to carry on the line, to take a man's seed from him and no more. Not his name nor his love. I have an issue with that, even if they have been treated badly, and, you know, women were, but not all women were treated badly. And to tell her daughter that, basically, she's telling her daughter to hate all men, that nothing good will ever come from it. I don't like the message that feels like it's being driven home in this book. And let me know if y'all are getting the same vibes from it, or is it just me? Because I don't see that as empowering women at all. I see that as creating a divide and hatred and prejudice, and it serves nobody. There are good men, there are bad men, there are good women, and there are bad women. Bottom line. Okay, so now we jump to Violet. Except I'm going to jump back. And, you know, maybe I wouldn't have viewed that so harshly if we actually had more insight into the family's history all up to that point. Because, you know, Altha's our starting point. We know a little bit of her mother's story, but we don't know any, you know, we haven't been shown any persecution or anything like that. And it's just, here's what she passes down to her daughter. So, yeah, I don't. So, Graham just cleaned up the evidence of what Violet's done, and the doctor's on the way to the house. I'm not even gonna discuss what happened there. Okay, so Kate's going to confront Simon now that the crows have shown up, and we're jumping to Altha. Seems like the farther we get into the book, the more and more male bashing there is. Because even at church, Altha's saying she's wondering if Grace keeps to the old ways, Catholic ways. She says, though I doubted the virgin who had been spared the feel of a man's flesh on hers could deliver Grace from her husband. I mean, really? And of course, they're talking about the Virgin Mary. Okay, so we just learned more of Grace's marriage, and that she is once again pregnant, asking for Altha's help. And of course, we're jumping to Violet now. So they just learned of Violet's miscarriage, and, you know, no compassion for her. Graham helped her hide the fact that she had taken anything. So, you know, Graham is the only male, apparently, who is remotely kind. So at least there's one. Finley's making muffins or biscuits or whatever he's kneading on my leg. So Violet's, you know, filling Graham in on their mother. And the poor kid, he thought that Violet hated him. He's been blaming himself for his mother's death. And she recognizes that, you know, he's good. But she's not going to tell him because he's a man, or he will be soon. A good man, but a man all the same. So she can't tell him. Now that one, I don't think is necessarily man bashing. It's just kind of something that's passed down between the women in the family. So I don't think she meant it that way, but at the same time, it still has that tone. I think just in light of the rest of the book. Or I've just become very sensitive to it now, which it might be. I do like how Graham stayed with her and helped her. Okay, so now we're getting the bees. Violet's dad was going to send her to a finishing school in Scotland and then figure out what to do with her. And Violet's saying, nope. She's going to stay right where she is. And then the bees started to show up. And he's nervous. I like that. She said, "You better leave. After all, I am my mother's daughter." And he's scared. So I do like that. I do believe her father deserves what's coming to him. And Grace's husband deserved it. I wish another side had been shown as well in the book. Graham staying with her. Ew, they plucked out one of Simon's eyes, the birds. And then the police show up. So I guess her text message got through. I will say that I did like how, you know, she knew that all of the other Weyward women were with her. I like how that was written and played out. It was, despite all of my issues with the book, I thought that was a beautiful passage. They've always been with her and always will be. I do like that. Okay, we're back at Altha. Okay, so Stacy, it doesn't appear that Grace dropping the pen had anything to do with spooking that crow, because it wasn't mentioned when they finally revealed how the stampede actually happened. And I don't remember. And then when she's inside telling Grace that it's over and the two are sitting at the table, Altha reaches her hand across the table and leaves it there, and then Grace put her hand on top of hers, you know, as a thank you. So I don't remember what her demeanor was in the courthouse. I remember she refused to look at Altha, but I don't remember if she actually accused Altha of anything. So I'm curious about that. I think she was a bystander in the trial. So I don't know. And I don't know that I care enough to go back and look. We'll see. So she asked Adam, I guess, to father a child on her. Oh, okay. So it did say that Grace was relieved whenever she was acquitted. And I do remember the trial now that, you know, we did a time jump, of course, just as Grace looked over at Altha at the verdict. And that's been hid from us for, I completely forgot about that. So Grace was relieved. Wow. So Violet and Graham's father disinherited them, saying they weren't his biological children. And he left everything to Frederick. Oh, but Weyward went to Violet's name. Okay, so we finally have an answer with the crow. And when they were crossing the road, Kate and her father, it was sent by Violet, who had seen a vision. And it never occurred to Violet that a man would try to protect his child. So Violet's intervention more than likely cost Henry his life. And Violet was torn about that. I do like that they emphasized that Henry was a good father and a good man, and that concept had never even occurred to Violet. And then she had to live with the guilt of what happened. So, yeah, I wonder how Kate's life would have turned out otherwise. Would she have married Simon? Maybe her dad would have seen what bad news he was. Okay, I finished it. I will be right back. Okay, I'm gonna move back over to my desk. So there is quite a bit to unpack with this. I want to start out with saying I really like her writing style. I love how she can turn a phrase, set a scene, the imagery, all of that. I just wish she was telling a different story. I did not like the story itself. So, and, you know, I always feel bad when I do a negative video on a book because, you know, authors put their blood, sweat, and tears into their books. I couldn't do what they do. And I am so impressed, whether I love a book or not, the fact they did it. You know, this is her debut And for it to make the Goodreads Choice Awards, to have it sold with this beautiful cover. I mean, I don't want to diminish what she's accomplished, but yet at the same time, this is not a book for me. I'm hoping that y'all, especially the ones of you that were starting to enjoy the book, you know, once we hit that 51% mark and everything, that you did enjoy the rest of it. It's just not a story for me. I think that's what it boils down to. I wasn't as bothered with the time jumps towards the end. I think because by then I finally just accepted it and I was like, okay, you know, it didn't feel as jarring to me. I think because probably a lot of that was waiting for the shoe to drop with all of the bad stuff. And then I realized in this last part, there wasn't going to be an end to the bad stuff. So there was no point in, you know, bemoaning the time jump because the new time jump was just going to be more bad. So, I do like how Graham's character, you know, enabled Violet to go to school and that she was able to live a full life. But, you know, for all that she did for Kate, wanting to look out for Kate once she realized that the Weyward magic would pass on to her. You know, she showed up at Kate's house. She met Simon. She recognized Simon from, you know, her visions of the misfortunes that would fall to Kate. And Simon simply answered the door and said, she's not home. And Violet was like, okay. And she left going, God, I didn't save Kate after all. What, you know, she's obviously, bad things are still going to happen to her. So as a result of that, all she does is go and meet with her lawyer and work up the will so Kate will inherit the cottage after Violet dies. She doesn't make an extra effort to get in touch with Kate. She doesn't try to go around Simon. She doesn't reach out to her, help her that way, help her escape, you know, even confirm that she's got a bad life going. She just, oh, well, I went and rang the doorbell and I wasn't allowed to talk to her, so she can just figure everything out on her own. And when I die, she can have my house. That's not assistance. And I think Violet thought she was doing good for her. And I think it's supposed to come across as, oh, wow, look, Violet was taking care of Kate. No, she wasn't. Just, you know, I just want to point that out. I want to make sure that doesn't go unremarked. So anyway, I think I probably would have really enjoyed this if it was told as a trilogy. I think if we started with Altha's story and, you know, we just dived into hers was fleshed out a little bit more. So it just wasn't one bad incident after another, you know, show some good so you can actually be horrified for the bad things that happen. But there was nothing to offset it. It was just constant bad. So eventually I just hardened my heart to it going, yeah, these characters are doomed. That's all there is to it. You know, I just have to accept it. So I didn't feel anything. I didn't connect to them. And I think Violet's story was probably the one with the most plot line, the most fleshed out. And again, I never really connected with Violet either. And I should have. What happened to her was terrible. What happened to Altha was bad, you know. And what happened to Kate was terrible. But I just didn't feel anything. So I'm really curious to see what y'all think. And by all means, if you disagree with me, if you love this, then say so. Yeah, we can have our different opinions, and you can even point out why. And I'm sure that you might have picked up on things that I missed completely that might end up changing my opinion. There's no telling. So I do have to say, though, I would not consider this book historical fiction. Not really. I mean, Altha's part kind of was, but it was more like Kate's portion was set in modern day. Obviously, just because she had a cell phone and she ordered her carriage online, and that's how Simon found her. But it honestly felt like everything was kind of out of time. You know, we're told this happens in 1619. We're told this happens in 1942. But everything just felt completely out of time. There was nothing to anchor them within their own times other than the treatment that they were getting, other than a witch trial and the Viscount having total control over his daughter. And, you know, Kate had a little bit of technology. So I don't agree with Goodreads. I don't think this was the debut of 2023. I don't think it was the best historical fiction. Granted, I haven't even seen the other list. I haven't seen the other books. But I'm sure, you know, this can't be the best. Again, no offense to Emilia Hart. It just wasn't a book for me. So I want to know what y'all think about it. Do you agree that it should have won? And did you enjoy the book? Do you plan to reread it in the future? I don't know that I will. This will honestly probably end up on my unhaul pile. I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit. Because maybe, you know, in the future I might enjoy it a little bit more. It would be interesting to go through and read just Altha's and then run through it again and just Violet and then just Kate. But I don't know how much of a difference that would make for me, because at its core, I didn't like it. Simply for the fact that all men were evil and all women were victims. I don't like that message. And it showed that not only are men going to be evil, with one or two exceptions, and women are going to be victims, and I don't think there was an exception to that, other than maybe Kate's mom. But it shows that to get out of that, to break that cycle, you need magic. I don't. Yeah. So I'm getting off my soapbox now. I've probably gone on long enough. And despite my feelings about the book, I had so much fun reading this with y'all and discussing it with you. And Carol, you're more than welcome. She was thanking me in the comments for hosting these and doing these with you. And your thanks was, it got me. So thank you for joining in, because it makes all the difference. Whether I love or hate the book, just reading these with y'all, the experience alone is worth every second of it. And I hope y'all all feel the same way. And Stacey L., thank you again for recommending the book. Despite my rather passionate feelings about it, I am glad I read it and that we got to join you as you check off 2 books from your Goodreads Choice Awards list. So before I go, I thought I'd point out a magical realism book that I absolutely loved, and that was Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe. So if y'all like small southern towns, we've got Anna inherits a cafe from her grandmother when her grandmother passes. But in order to gain her inheritance, she's going to have to live in this small southern Alabama town for a year and run the cafe. And there is a magical realism aspect to it. It has something to do with the pies and the blackbirds in the area. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was so good, and it's heartwarming. So if you want something along that lines, I thought I would leave y'all with this. All right, keep an eye out. Today after tomorrow, we will be spinning the wheel to find out what'll be our short list for our February Start and Stop Buddy Read. And I can't wait to see what y'all are going to pick. All right, that's it from me. I will see y'all hopefully very, very soon. Bye.